All right, welcome everybody to another episode of eCommerce Deep Dive. This is our monthly Amazon recap. So this month we're looking at December updates, news, other insights into Amazon. I'm here with Kyle Olson, our Director of Strategy. Kyle, looks like we have some updates around kind of some general updates, some content catalog updates, and a couple updates on advertising to round things out. So why don't we dive into it? The first on the list here is subscribe and save dashboard.
Yeah, so Amazon rolled out in December on the 3P side, specifically a dashboard for Subscribe and Save. Kind of the first step they've taken into giving really any level of reporting within Subscribe and Save on either side. Historically, they've had enrollment options for the program, but really haven't had any robust ways of looking at how it's actually doing outside of looking at the invoices and how much you're getting charged and kind of reverse engineering it from there. So the dashboard is probably going to be built out over time, but we'll give a lot more insight into like how many people are actually subscribing, how much revenue you're getting per subscriber, and some other kind of comparisons from that perspective as well.
Great. And is this just on the Seller Central side for now?
Currently, yes, it is.
Okay, awesome. Good. Looks like also related to Seller Central side of things, there's an update on Seller Central fees.
Yeah, so typically Amazon increases their fees, I think at least annually, but they announced a couple of weeks back that they'll be postponing any adjustments or changes at least until June of this year. The reasoning behind this was around just kind of the craziness that's happened in the world, in the market, all of that, but really committed to holding back on any adjusting of their costs, fulfillment fees, commission rates, that sort of thing, even though they're seeing rising costs as well. So obviously we don't expect that to be permanent. I would assume that kind of June or just mid-year period that will come and pass like normal, but absorbing that cost for now up until that point, again, as a way to help kind of support the 3P marketplace and the sellers that are on site.
Yeah, and that's great. That's some welcome news for the seller community. So that's
For
great.
sure.
All right, moving on to content and catalog review commenting.
Yeah, so this one dropped out of the blue where Amazon, specifically phrased around the 3P side, announced that they would stop allowing brands to comment on reviews. When this actually went through, it applied to both the 1P side as well in addition to the 3P side. So they've essentially disabled the ability for brands and manufacturers to comment on reviews. We've touched on this a little bit in the past, but was just a bit more broad than they originally announced. And again, was with pretty much no warning whatsoever. So the good news there is that this doesn't seem to have applied to the questions and answers functionality. So brands, manufacturers, selling entities can still comment and engage there. But a pretty fundamental shift in terms of just removing that from reviews themselves. We've actually seen some comments that were already posted when this was allowed be removed from reviews as well. So not only are they preventing it moving forward, it seems, at least in some cases, they've purged what's already been through in that program. So again, pretty fundamental change, but still options on the question side to engage there, and to be seen on if and how that whole process will change in general.
Okay, interesting. Good to know. Next update on here is country of origin.
Yeah, so this is one very specific piece of content change that we just saw a bulk announcement for in the past month, but really continues a trend that we've talked about probably on every one of these monthly insights going back the better part of the past year, where they're just being much more prescriptive and more strongly enforcing different requirements that they have. Specifically in this case, recording the country of origin for where products are manufactured, or at least the final step of kind of assembly for products. There's always been some level of country of origin setting, at least on the 1P side, but I think based on 1P and 3P, different categories, it's really just been enforced inconsistently, and can result in different compliance issues, regulation issues, that sort of thing. So again, in line with a lot of different kind of title formats, category formats, things that that we've talked about in previous months. Just the latest kind of specific attribute field at a product level that Amazon's really pushing back on the vendor community and the seller community to make sure that's provided, it's accurate, and it's applied to 100% of the catalog.
Hey there, I'm Dave Zimmerman with Orca Pacific. I hope you're enjoying the show. I wanted to let you know this episode is brought to you by Orca Pacific, a Mighty Hive company. We're a full-service agency exclusively focused on Amazon with capabilities for everything a brand needs to succeed on the platform. From advertising strategy, content development and SEO, to merchandising and marketing. If it relates to driving and converting demand on the platform, our dedicated teams are leaders in this space. Our robust suite of services includes expertise on the back end as well, from operational support, demand forecasting and planning, to the right fulfillment options, and higher level strategies like long-term planning, channel management, and access to beta programs. To learn more, visit our website at www.orcapac.com. That's ORCAPAC.com. And a business development manager will get you up to speed on how we can accelerate your Amazon business. Now, back to the show.
We have two more updates on catalog, both pretty in the weeds, but I think still important. So the first one here is all caps, all caps and block letters.
Yeah, so this is a fairly impactful change depending on how any individual entity has been kind of curating their content. But essentially, Amazon made the announcement that they'll be requiring and enforcing that block letters or all caps are no longer utilized. And for a while now, it's been a fairly common practice to break up mainly bullet points, but descriptions as well, of having kind of the leading text of a given bullet point or what have you in all capital letters, sort of the call out, the main kind of aspects of that bullet, just bring a little more attention to that text, that sort of thing. But really, Amazon came out and said, that's no longer allowed. We're going to remove content that has that or reject content that has that. So in a lot of cases, it may require an adjustment of content you've submitted, auditing your catalog and making sure it's compliant with just yet another new content rule. But given the amount of items out there that use that to some degree in their listings, a pretty impactful change for sure.
Yeah, and I would just recommend that brands get out ahead of that, because it may be kind of enforcement may be inconsistent, but you don't want to wake up one day and all your content's been removed from your pages. You're much better off having kind of non all caps content than no content at all, because Amazon just scrubbed it overnight. So that's good for people to be aware of. Kind of a somewhat related catalog update, so size attributes.
Yep. So again, same kind of story there too, where Amazon's just getting much more prescriptive across the board on how they're taking in certain attributes. In this case, how you set up kind of size or quantity counts for mostly multi-packs, but anything that just has a size value, ounces, pounds, etc., and obviously 2-pack, 3-pack, etc. So really just better defining that sort of structure, so it's consistent across the board. I'm sure everyone's seen listings on Amazon where even within a given family, it's set up differently, where it may be a 2-pack, then it may be like a 3-count pack of 6 or something, and figuring out how to do that math correctly so the customer actually knows how many of a given item that they're getting was really confusing, led to poor customer experience, bad reviews. So really standardizing that, so there's just a set, cut and dry way, regardless of catalog, regardless of item. Here's how you define multi-packs or just different quantities in general, to take that level of confusion away from the customer and try to make it more intuitive for them to know what they're actually getting. And I think, John, to your point on the block issues, really, Amazon's been changing a lot of their best practices from a content or catalog perspective for the better part of this year. So really taking a lot of these seriously, auditing the full catalog and just making sure you're in a clean slate, a consistent slate, and hitting what, at least as of today, is those best practice marks is really important, just to make sure, like you said, your listings don't clear out overnight, or that content doesn't disappear, and then you're left scrambling trying to figure out what, why, how it's been flagged, and that's a whole different process to correct in and of itself. So,
yeah, that's great advice. All right, awesome. So that wraps up catalog. Moving on to advertising, we have two updates here, both pretty straightforward. The first one is Amazon Brazil.
Yeah, so simple update here, but Amazon formally rolled out the search advertising options, or sponsored products, brands, and brand stores within their Brazil marketplace. One of their newer-ish retail marketplaces that obviously wasn't fully built up yet on the advertising side. So kind of big step there in that marketplace. Again, kind of an ongoing trend that we've seen where really starting to have all of the different retail marketplaces come up to parity from an advertising side. Clearly, we're not quite there yet, but Amazon's being much more mindful and deliberate on pushing that out across the board, just given how much they're expanding and growing the advertising segment in general.
Yeah, exactly. And I would expect to see more of that in kind of the expansive marketplaces that Amazon is operating in.
Mm-hmm.
Probably can't talk too much about it, but there's definitely more to come on the roadmap in terms of other countries. Last but not least, DSP updates.
Yep, so similar trend, just in line with Amazon continuing to build up their advertising options and capabilities. A couple new features rolled out on the DSP side, fairly in the weeds, but I think the overall trend is again really investing heavily in DSP specifically and advertising in general. In this case, these latest updates are really specific to optimizing and measurement, allowing to tag essentially goal KPIs and roll those better into your campaign management and analysis, essentially. And again, this is pretty much a monthly thing at this point where some little piece within DSP is added, tweaked, or improved. Again, really expect that to continue throughout this year as well as that platform just continues to grow and scale.
All right, that wraps it up. Kyle, appreciate it. This is our last set of insights for 2020. So we'll be back in about a month talking about January. And Kyle, we'll talk to everybody then. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks, John.